Hi, everyone, and welcome to Who Threw the Curve. And today we have Samantha. Samantha, is it just Samantha, or is this Samantha something? Like, I know eventually, or you are trying to get like a podcast going on like that. But what do we call you? I know you as Samantha, but is it going to be like Samantha G, Samantha? I don't know.
She. No, as of right now, it's just Samantha.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure. So, today we're going to have another great discussion. It's about women, of course, and their biological clock, and it's the notion that women should not feel pressure to have children by a certain age. So, I'm not a woman, and I started banging out kids since I was young. So, obviously, I wasn't worried about the age, but some people are, especially women. Um, I kind of get it, especially for women, only because women go through a lot of things in society that men don't. So, number one, women always have to fight harder and actually work harder at anything that they do. Where men, we don't. And it's just that because it's still, even though it has changed, it's still a male dominated world. So we don't have to, we just get things because we're men. Like, unfortunately, that's just the way society works. So women now are starting to have kids at a later age for a lot of reasons because they're like, well, I want to get my foot in this door. And if I'm having kids, I can't do that. And there's a lot of other issues I guess we'll talk about as we go on. But what do you think about that? Should women be worried about having children at an early age instead of a later age?
Um, See, for me, that's a tough question to answer because I also view it as in a health aspect.
Okay.
I've worked in OBGYN,
Okay.
so I know when you reach an age of 35, you can still get pregnant. Yeah, that's not the issue. But complications to you and the baby are just greater. There's higher chances of Down syndrome and other birth defects. And then you, as a woman, older, higher chances of preeclampsia and, stillbirths, unfortunately, things like that. So for me, it's just a health aspect that I look for it, that I look at it, but for those women who, no, I want to wait, I need my job, I want to reach this certain point, I totally get it. I understand it. It's not wrong if you want to wait till after 35. That's not what I'm saying. Just, again, me personally, health wise, that's the reason why I'm like, okay. But as far as society, wait as long as you can.
Yeah.
But the other thing is too, unfortunately, men at 98 years old could still knock them out, and
You're
us
not
at
sure.
98, we got no more eggs.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Um, no, I get it because you're right. Because complicate. I mean, I don't work for a doctor's office. I'm not. I mean, my knowledge is very like general. But I do get that there are complications. There are complications for anything as you get older. So giving birth, though it may sound like it's something that's natural, it is. But you have to. There's a lot of things you have to do during birth. Like I don't think I ever want to be a woman and give birth because I be looking. They're all excuse me for saying, but they look all busted up. Like imagine you had to push pain. I see that they break their veins in their eyes and they all swollen. Like, nah, yeah, why would I want to do that? Uh, but I see what you're saying. Like, I'm sure it gets more complicated as you do get older. Not only, number one, our bodies go through complications as we get older. Like, I joked at you on a different segment that when you said you were 29, I said, oh, don't worry, at 30, you start falling apart. But
Right.
I said that joking around, but it's true. You start getting different things that you never felt in your 20s or your teens, and you're like, oh my God, what the hell just happened? All of a sudden, you got all these underlying ailments that you got because your body's getting older. But unfortunately, I mean, and I think because back in my days, you could just have kids. Like a lot of times, I just grew, I came up in that time where parents were still one stays home and the other one works. You can't do that now. Unless you have money up your ass, you cannot do that now. Both parents, unfortunately, have to work to make to make ends meet and pay the bills. So now you're left with, do I have a kid? Because that means I have to stay back and have a kid. They just recently changed different laws, so mothers could take time out, and even fathers. Like shit, if that law was around back in my day, I would have had a lot of time off. As many kids
Right.
I had. But it's like a catch 22. Do I have a kid because I want to start a family and I think it's time, or do I want to pay my bills, or do I want to suffer? Or
That's
do I?
the biggest thing too. Like I was 23 when I had my son. I've been a stay-at-home mom since. I'm trying to look, and that's the other thing too. Like even now, I would love to go back to the work field, but I have to look part time, and it's because I'm still like the at-home person. Like I take him to swimming classes, I take him to his sports, and then to find a daycare or even a babysitter, I don't want to work to pay somebody because
Right.
it's all that. Why am I working?
That's another good point, because childcare these days is not like back in the days. You find some old lady to take care of your kid, and they just watch the kid, and you slip them $100 for the week, and that's it. Oh shit, $100 ain't cutting it. That $100 these days is not even half a day. You know what I'm saying?
It's,
Watching your kid.
yeah,
So
$100 isn't even food for the week nowadays. So
I kind of got this topic from a magazine, because Halle Berry, and I'll just mention her. She kind of goes with that you don't have to worry about having a kid at a certain age. So she suggests that do what you got to do and then have it later on. I don't recall reading if she had her children at a later age, but
I
she looks great.
believe she did.
She
I
did.
believe. I'm like 75% sure she did later, but I'm not
Right.
100%.
So I think she probably had it in her 40s, because she's my age now, and a little older than me. But
Mm.
um, it's she could say that because she has money, so she could wait. And if she had any type of ailments, she also has money. Money fixes a lot of things. But what about those people that don't have that type of money and can't afford to get that care to fix an ailment that you have while you're pregnant? Because remember, you also, as you get older, as you were saying, besides you and your complication, the baby can have complications too. And
Yeah.
somewhere in kindergarten, not kindergarten, I think in fifth grade or something, I probably paid attention in health class. I I I learned that unlike men, we always like shooting out fresh sperm. Women's eggs are with them, and they have a certain amount that they have, and they age with you. So the older the egg, I guess, the more complication a child can have. And it's not like that all the time, but it can be, because just like
It's a
anything.
risk. Yeah.
So it's easy for a woman or a man who has money to say, yeah, you go do it when you're 50. But again, why would you want to have a kid when you're 40? Because when they reach their teenage years, you're probably going to be 60, and can you run around with them and they're giving you all that headache and heart attacks of all this dumb shit they have, especially those people with money?
Well, I mean, I guess if you have money, you have a nanny to take care of that. um,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
other thing too, like if I'm not mistaken, Halle Berry also has diabetes, and
Right.
that was the other thing for me. I'm a type 1 diabetic, so being a type 1 diabetic, the moment I got pregnant, it's boom, you're high risk.
Right,
Like
right.
I ended up giving birth to Alex, and I had a C-section at 36 weeks and 4 days because of the diabetes and the preeclampsia. I ended up getting preeclampsia.
Mm,
I was like, if I was to show baby shower pictures, I looked like a beached whale, and it wasn't just pregnancy. I was swollen.
really?
Everybody was doing my poor legs massages. Yeah, and it's so like again, I agree with you. Like, I feel like if you have the money and you have the means and you want to wait, wait. I
Right.
had my son young. I don't want to have a kid at 40. I want to go to Greece at 40. So, I mean, that's my thing with that there. But again, like, if I do have another kid, it would probably be one more, and I don't want to wait too much longer. Like, I'm going to be 30, and I think my max is at 32, to be honest, because me already being a high risk, that's already complications in itself. But if it happens, it happens. If not, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm okay, honestly, too. But
You
I
got
have
one.
my one.
You have one. That's all right.
Yeah, like again, if it happens, if God permits it, great. If not, then I'm enjoying my son. Like I have the best time with him. So
The other thing, how about we talked about complication stuff, but what about if, especially for women chasing a career, and then all of a sudden the husband, he's not really chasing a career, or he has a career and he wants a child, and all of a sudden, well, you really can't because you know you as a woman, you're right there where you want to be or going to be, and then all of a sudden your your significant other wants you to have a child, and now you have to make this decision that could change your whole life. It's going to change your life, period.
yeah, yeah.
So what about that? Like, you being a woman, what do you tell other women?
That's something that I feel. I mean, unfortunately, I can't relate to those women because my fiance he owns his business, so that's why he's able to financially do the supporting while I stay home.
Right.
But that's something that you and your partner have to talk about even before marriage, like because that could either make or break his decision, and that can make or break your decision. Like, talk about your lifelong goals. What does he want as goals? What do you want as goals? You know, by the time you meet your significant other, even if you're high school sweethearts, like you should know eventually what you want to do. And listen, honey, babe, whatever you call him or her, this is what I want. When I get to this, then we could plan. If that's like really what you want, communication is key when it comes to situations like that. I feel.
So I hear what you're saying, and that's true. People should communicate more. However, what happens to those people who, and we had a segment, me and Brandy, we did one on divorce maybe a couple of days ago, and marriage itself. Most people don't even know each other. They find out about each other when they're about to get divorced. And we're talking about 7 years into a relationship. Now I know who you are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What about those people? So back to what you said, we're talking, and I tell you, hey, I want to, I would like to have a child. Oh, you tell me, hey, no, but I want to chase a career. Maybe we can have one after I get my career. And all of a sudden, I'm kind of in agreement, but I really didn't agree. But I'm like, yeah, I just pushed it under the rug for now. Now, 5 years in, boom, you're chasing your career, and I knock somebody else up. And then you ask me, what am I doing? And I'm like, oh, because you didn't want to give me a kid. Like, it's a lot of weird things. Or you were chasing your career, so I'm having a kid with somebody else. Um, and to add on to that, nobody really knows the other person. So I would say maybe 4 year, 5 years in, because when you're dating and stuff and talking, you're both selling each other. You're both salespeople selling each other. Who really, besides me, who else would sit in front of people and say, "Yeah, I'm a piece of shit. I don't do this. I do this and that." Nobody. You know
Yeah.
what I'm
No,
saying?
it's hard to find. Yeah.
Nobody does that because you want to sit there and tell them all your positive things, your positive plus things that don't even exist, right? And it's not until you're 4 years in that you realize, well, that's not what he told me in the beginning. No, of course not, because he was trying to win you over, and he got you. You got suckered. Now you're stuck with what you have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of times relationships suffer because of that, and especially for the woman, because it's not, again, and only because I have a long work history and I know a lot of great women who work very hard and deserve more than what they have, and they just don't get it because they're never looked at. They always choose a man. But meanwhile, this woman is like 1,000% better than the man that they chose for a certain position. You see what I'm saying? And women think, well, damn, I need this job, or I'm going to get a promotion if I have a kid. And then that's what forces your significant, not forces, because in reality, he was going to get that piece of ass anyway. And he just happened to knot it up and use that as an excuse. What do you say about that?
See, I feel like there's no excuse for cheating if you're gonna go there. I mean, again, I just feel like it's a big communication thing because the example you used is okay. He says okay, but he's not okay with it. So, and then you use this cheating situation, you get another girl knocked up as an excuse. But if you would have opened your mouth before,
Yeah.
like, because unfortunately, not all the time, but a lot of the stress does end up on women as far as, okay, I'm pregnant, I have to find the childcare and I have to do the right one. Like, so my fiance, he's had a child prior to me,
Right.
but I'm the one who, like, I investigate. Like, if we need to look for somebody to watch our child, like, I do the investigations, and there's times he's even like, you've opened my eyes as to why you're looking into certain things. So it's not just the fact that, okay, we need to have a kid at this age. There's a lot more behind the scenes mentally for women that, unfortunately, and again, sometimes not all the time, men don't deal with.
Right.
Because with certain men, all right, I found a daycare across the street, even though it looks sketchy as hell. At least it's a daycare and it's cheap, and I'll put them there.
Right.
That's not what I'm looking for.
Right.
I'm looking for proper care, and I mean, there's even been stories on the news, like the one lady that she ran a daycare, and her husband was doing these horrible things to these kids that she ended up killing her husband. I mean, free her from jail, but like
Right.
you don't know, you never know. So it's not just for women. Okay, let me get pregnant. Let's open my legs. I'll give birth. Push it out. Boom, it's done. There's so much more behind it.
No, you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, like you said, it's the woman gets stuck with everything 100% of the time. And
Yeah,
I think if I ever had a next life after this one, I don't want to be a woman. I really don't. because because you got women have it very hard. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It's not easy to be a good woman because I could point out plenty of women who they have it easy. Um, but you're absolutely right. You can't trust anybody. A daycare. Come on, you can't even go to church or have your child work as an altar boy or girl because even the priests are fucking touching the kids. So who if you can't trust a priest, then who else can you trust? You can't trust nobody, literally.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a good point. And then the other thing I want to cover before we cut off is quality time. So now you have a kid. Let's say you have a kid and you have a career, your husband has a career, who watches the kid? Is it going to be the nanny who speaks French? And then next thing you know, your kid is speaking French?
And that's been a lot of issues too, where these women unfortunately can't always stay with the kid, and they don't have, and then it's not by choice. I mean, because you have to work, but unfortunately, a lot of times they don't have that bond with their child like every woman dreams of. Because every woman who wants to be a mother, like the ultimate dream is to be the best mother.
Right.
But when you have to choose with having a child and struggling and working and having the best for your child, you could give your child the best, you could give your child the materialistic things, but sometimes they're still missing just that bond. And
Right.
There's no, for mothers and fathers, there is no rule book to parenting at all. Like, you have to learn as you go,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and I've, in life, only one stranger has taken care of my son, and that's because when stupid COVID was going on, I couldn't bring my child to doctor's appointments, and everybody was working, and the doctor appointment wasn't far, and I was like adamant. I gave my mother this lady's number, his father. Like I was like, this lady's watching him. She's not supposed to leave, you know. And that was like a terrifying moment, like honestly, because I did not know this lady, you
Right.
know, and I was like hoping
It,
for the
it,
best.
it's crazy on the things that parents now have to sacrifice. Back in the days, we got raised by grandparents and shit like that. But to add on to what I said before about your child speaking French, this is true. I know this kid, this white kid, and he has like a Jamaican or a Caribbean accent, and he's already old, and he told me the story. He was raised by his nanny, who he also considered his mother because his parents never spent time with them. The nanny spent time with him, and he spoke
Yeah,
pure patois, and he's not even Jamaican, and
yeah,
it was because of the nanny. Because of the nanny.
it's true, and it's like it's cool that he knows it, but it's like sad because then as a mother, I like I would feel regret because it's like you're not wrong for working and you're not wrong. It's just it's hard. I actually am friends with somebody, um, and I'm not bashing her. Her mother believes that you're not a woman until you have a child, and my friend doesn't want kids, and that's totally okay too. Kids are a responsibility. I joke around all the time. I love my son. Like me and my son, we're like this.
Right.
But sometimes, fuck them kids, okay?
No, I hear
Because
you. I hear that. I hear that.
because it's, motherhood is sometimes ghetto.
I I I think that there are a lot of people that, especially here in New York City, there are a lot of people who come here and they don't end up having kids, and because of the responsibility. And you know what?
Mm-hmm.
If you choose not to have kids because you know you're not responsible, then kudos to you because you're not bringing in a child to suffer. So that's
100%.
I give them, merit on making those decisions because they're not being selfish. Like if you're not parent material, um, then you shouldn't have kids. I always say I wasn't parent material. I was had kids, but I wasn't a parent. I always say that my sister, she's like a real parent. Like she celebrates because you just wiped your ass. I'm not gonna celebrate that. You see what I'm saying? So there are really, really there are people in life that are good, that they're genuinely made for parenting, and there's some people that aren't. You know,
Yeah, and that's
so
exactly what my friend says. She says, because she loves to travel, which is great, and she says, I'm too selfish to have kids. Like, I don't want to give things up for a kid. And I respect it. And then there's some people that are like, oh, but so many people can't have kids. You know, that's so selfish of you. So you want somebody who doesn't want kids to have a kid and then have resentment towards this kid just so you could go back later and say, oh, you should have never been a mother. That's what I said in the first place.
exactly. So I give those people that choose not to have because they know what they can do and what to what extent they could do parenting when they don't have kids. I don't think it's a wrong thing. I think that's good for them mentally, and it's also good for society. You're not bringing in kids who raise themselves, you
Yeah.
know. But with that said, I'll let you get the last take. Well, what do women do? Do they have kids early? Or they don't have kids, or they have them
Have
late?
kids whenever you want, whatever fits good for you. You can't go based on what everybody else wants you to do because nobody else is paying your bills nor are they feeding you. So you do what's best for you.
All right, great. So I'm gonna go down the street and tell that lady who still got her period and she's 65 that she can have a kid if she wants one. Because Samantha said you should.
If that's what she wants to do at 65, I mean, there was a lady in India who had one at 70. Kudos to her.
With that said, we'll see. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share us. Don't forget to like us. And I forgot there's something else, but I'll think of it later. We'll see you on our next segment. Thanks.